I've done one mushroom trip, and it was 2 years ago. It was the first time I'd ever done them because I had a really bad acid trip in England, and it really fucked my life up, man. I honestly, it was a 20-hour trip. I was basically experimented on with some stuff from the dark web. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was 1 a.m. I'd just come from a night out in Shoreditch. Bad vibes. But I said I've never ever taken psychedelics ever again. And then I opened myself up to it because I knew the healing properties of it. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. It was a truly heart-opening experience. And the deepness of my trip, people think that I did ayahuasca. Because I didn't eat meat for 2 days. I was just eating salads. I was fasted for 24 hours before I did it. I did a Reiki session the day before. And then I went deep, man. And I was underwater a lot in the trip, and out of the corals were all of these things like forgiveness fishes, and it was just things that said forgive, just millions of them coming out of the coral. And then like my father was like a god, my mom was a goddess, and she was like ascending, and my dad, I tried to give him a hug and he was like no, but I danced with him instead. And then I danced in a circle with my whole family around a fire, and my ex showed up as the embodiment of love. And I went through every emotion, man. I cried, I was smiling, I was laughing. It was like phenomenal. But it was truly, I hadn't felt anything in my heart for a very long time. I'd felt really shut off. And then immediately I was like, love. Like love, just in like a furnace, man. My heart was on fire. I was like,
I love that. And I think because we have so many blockages, we never really feel that love emotion. I think that's why it's so beautiful, because we're like, it wakes us up almost. It's like, oh, this is actually what life can be like. I think as long as you sort of keep on doing the work, I think that's where you can get to, I think.
Yeah, I find it hard to access the heart, and I think that's as I've got older. I think more things have come up in my life that have made me shut off. And so accessing that part of myself feels more of, I feel there's unsolved pain there. So every time that opens up, I start to feel pain, and therefore I don't allow myself to feel it and get through it so that I can feel what's on the other side of that. Mix, like for me, feeling love and pain are very, very similar. It's like a burn, and sometimes it's like a horrible burn, and sometimes it's like an exciting burn, but it's still the same sort of sensations in the body.
Yeah, I wonder, have you, I guess, reflected? I'm really interested in this type of thing, because on the one hand, it's like, okay, we can explore our past to understand what's happened and why our body's reacting a certain way and all this conditioning. But then what I've thought about recently is, do we spend too much time trying to understand the past and actually looking into the future? What can we create? What identity can we create? What type of person do we want to be? Because I think I noticed within myself as well, I was obsessed with understanding the past and looking into things. And I think there's a place for that. But I also think going forward, who is the person you want to become? How do you want to react to things? And I think that, at least for me, I think that's what helped me sort of shift from just a different type of energy into a new one. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Of course. So I was an actor, and I had to create pasts and research what was going on during the time of my character, what they say about themselves, what they say about others, and what people say about them, so that I could formulate what kind of character I was. And so with that, I assigned my truth of how Bobby would experience certain things in order to step into the identity and the character of the person I'm playing. And all of this work that we do about creating ourselves and building ourselves into the person we want to be, I've never assigned that to myself. I've assigned it to the character that I've been given. So what I've been doing recently is trying to figure out how I can rewrite my past and tell the story that allows me to be the person I can be in the future. And then it's doing the voice training, doing the voice work is what's bringing this back to my memory from my training, from my acting career. And so, yes, I've had shit tons of therapy. I've been through hours and hours of the stuff. And yes, it is very much, let's talk about the past. Let's talk about this, what happened here, what happened here. Okay, cool. Then what? I know what's happened. And I felt there was never any resolve. You get to 45 minutes, and just when you're about to get to some, like the point where you think, right, we're making a breakthrough here. Oh, the time's over now. Sorry, you have to leave. See you next week. And with what I've been doing for The Voice, it's a physiological thing. You start from the outside in. Same with the gym. It's like outside in. And what you do on the outside starts to affect the inner. And that's the only way I've ever sort of made any serious changes, is what I do out here, physically, vocally, playing music, learning songs, then affects the inside, rather than going inside and then out. But it's good to play between the two.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I wonder, in the acting space, I wonder if a lot of people get into it because they're almost able to identify as a different person to who they actually are, and that gives them a chance to express themselves. I wonder if a lot of actors or actresses in real life they're perhaps, I guess everyone's wounded to an extent, right? But do you think a lot of the time people are maybe projecting something that they perhaps want to be, or perhaps something they don't necessarily identify with, but it's almost their, not necessarily an alter ego, but is there something there they feel like they're perhaps more comfortable to present themselves to the world, or is there anything like that?
Personally, I think that the best actors are the ones that you believe, and you believe them because they're telling the truth. And the truth is their version and interpretation of what they've been given in text format, in the story, what the director wants them to do. So in essence, when I'm playing a character, it's not that I want to be someone else. It's that I get to truly be myself within that character, because I'm telling the truth of me as that character. So I'm like, yeah, so I've done 1800s Russian tragedy. And yeah, I'm not Russian, and I wasn't around in the 1800s. But what would I be like? And what would I be listening to? And what would I be reading? And who is my inspiration? And who do I find attractive? And why do I find them attractive? Because of the socio-economic layout of the country at the time, and the culture, and the art. So I'm then like looking into this world, and I get to make the choice as a character. Oh, I love this, I love this, I love this. Oh, I hate this, I don't like this, I don't like that kind of haircut, but I will wear this, and I'm going to speak like this because it makes me fit in with those kinds of people. And all of a sudden, I'm not pretending. I'm just finding the truth of the story, finding the truth of who am I in that situation. So a lot of actors, I think, the best actors are the ones that truly know themselves the most. Because if you don't know yourself, how do you know what you're going to be like if you are, say, playing the Joker? Heath Ledger had a lot of things going on in his life. That's Heath Ledger as the Joker. There's like 5 Joker actors now. Each one is very different, but they each bring their own version of their truth to it. So they're not pretending to be the Joker, otherwise the Joker would be the same across the whole board. But it's that person's truth as that character, that person's truth as that character. Like Tom Hardy as well. It's like he is Tom Hardy in every role. It's just the name is something different, and the given circumstances of each character shape how he makes those character choices. And it's all the truth because you believe him.
That I find really interesting, because I think we can apply that to our lives as well, as we were just discussing, right? If you want to be confident, or you want to adopt certain traits, I think start believing that and embodying that. And yeah, I think there is an element to, okay, you've got to take action to believe it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to be, I don't know, let's say you want to make more friends and you want to be a sociable guy, then yeah, you're going to have to go out and meet people. But I do think there is an element of, right, tell your brain that you are someone else, start acting like it. And I think eventually you'll start becoming that if you stick with it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's about what you consume and what research you're doing. So if you're putting your head into books that are about a certain topic, after a month of learning these things, you're going to be someone who knows that. It's like I didn't know what was going on in late 1800s Russia, but after understanding what was going on and reading about it and listening to music from that time, I then was like in that mindset. And it's the same with, right, I want to be a business owner that works in this field, and I want to it to be optimized because I'm also struggling with ADHD symptoms. So I need something to structure it. So I binge how to use AI, and then now I'm an AI user. And then now I'm able to understand how that works. And now I'm Bobby who knows how to use AI. Before I wasn't. It's like in the Matrix where they plug him in and he's like, let's learn some stuff. And then he's like, oh, I know Kung Fu. It's like that. And then all of a sudden, Keanu's character has leveled up because he learned this new thing. And I think that's the same with life and what we're consuming, what we're researching and developing in terms of knowledge and skills. We're always evolving as a character.
But do you think sometimes that you can think about it in the other way? It's almost unconsciously that you're becoming someone else. Because I feel like when you've got a plan of who you want to become, you can start, like you said, developing yourself and following that path. I wonder if people are just on autopilot throughout life and just unconsciously just going through the motions.
Yeah.
They sort of become further and further. They just end up nowhere. And you ask them, are you happy or where are you going? They're like, not really. I haven't really achieved anything. Okay, what are your goals? Who actually are you? And I think a lot of the time they don't actually know. I don't think they can answer that. And I wonder if you haven't got a direction of who are you and who you want to be, like no one's going to find their purpose straight away. But I think to have some sort of path to follow can be helpful. And if you're not, I wonder if you're just, like you were saying, you adopt all these behaviors and you just become a random thing without any intent.
Yeah. Depends how easily influenced you are by the trends of the time, right? It could be, I mean, if we were alive 80 years ago, we'd have probably gone to war. We probably wouldn't have wanted to, or we probably would have. Would we have been more patriotic 80 years ago than we are now, being two Englishmen that aren't in England? Would you fight for your country now? I wouldn't. But back 80 years ago, depending on what propaganda, what kind of things we're learning, what the papers are saying, where we're getting our information from, I probably would, towards an enemy that we know nothing about, or we do know about them because we're very similar. We're Germanic people, so I don't know. It depends what we're consuming, right?
Well, I think touching upon what you've said in terms of identity, I wonder if sometimes we can make what is happening, like you said, propaganda and all this stuff, we kind of make it our identity sometimes. I feel like that's where a lot of society's going, because everyone wants to be part of, I think it's like human nature, everyone wants to be part of something, right? And I wonder if a lot of the time people form their identity based off, it could be politics, it could be, you even see it in football teams as well. Do you think that type of stuff almost takes you away from your essence of who you're meant to be, or does it necessarily go that deep?
I don't know if I've changed my identity, but I've pivoted in terms of career choices and what I'm doing, because I went from being a rugby player to a musical theatre actor to voiceover to photographer to Web3, then into fitness, and then what I'm doing now. So I've always pivoted, but it's always been from the same direction of not leaving any stones unturned and freedom of expression and creativity. And again, that's like driven by things from the past, I think, still. I wonder what point I will stop being triggered and making decisions based on past decisions, instead be able to look to what could happen.
Can you expand on that?
So my innate internal need to freely express myself is driven by 7 or 8 years of not being able to express myself because I'm under the influence of medication from age 7 to 16. So what's that, 9 years? 9 years of medication and never allowed to freely be myself. If I was ever myself, I had to take a pill. If I was ever expressing myself, I was moved away from people. I was put in isolation, put in the corner of the room, had to face the wall. I was just told I'm disruptive. If I ever spoke up at home and wanted to stand my ground or swore, said a bad word, I'd be chased and put soap in my mouth. So I was told to shut up a lot as a kid. And so when it comes to now, I'm like, fuck that. Like the whole point of me opening up this part and learning to sing when I was like 19, and the reason why I sing, the reason why I love poetry, the reason why I love all like different types of music that allow me to express myself, it's because of that, I think, because I was never allowed.
But that's really interesting, because if that's your drive, but then people would be looking outwards looking in and thinking, but you're enjoying, or at least from my side, it seems okay. You're enjoying what you're doing, and you found your passion. It seems right in all these different areas. So, and this is what I think as well. A lot of people's drivers aren't what they think they are. They're always chasing an emotion, I think. Same with whereas monetary goals, they think they want that goal, but the reality is it's actually a feeling that they're escaping or chasing. So I wonder, in your instance, what do you say about your own journey? Do you accept that that's your driver? Is it a good thing? Is there something else you think, or is that a part of who you are? I find this shit really interesting.
Okay, so I know that it's not. It's been a hell of a journey, but it's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, I'm driven by that wound. I'm driven by that need to do it because of what happened in the past, and I love doing it when I do it, but it's not what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a set maker and work on sets and build props. I didn't want to be on a screen. I didn't want to be on stage. I didn't want to play music. I mean, I've always wanted to be in a band, and that's still never been fulfilled. Always wanted to be like in a band. Always. Never had the opportunity. I try and create one. It just doesn't happen. I did have like one moment in 2017 when I joined a band as a frontman, and they were trying to get me to sing songs that were way too high for me. But I felt like I was doing it to try and impress a girl that I was working with. And she went off with a musician in the end. And then when that happened, I ended up like buying a new guitar and just going all in on the music, because I thought that's what I needed to do. But I'd say most of my drivers have been driven by heartbreak. Like, most of the songs I sing are just because they're in my range and they're about heartbreak, and they allow me to express and feel through certain emotions that I'm going through. But at the end of the day, like, the thing that brought me like fulfillment was building stuff with my hands. For years I was like drawing. I would build like different kinds of set things, make little trees, put grass on it, and build these like terrains and things. And that was more fulfilling for me than dealing with being on a stage. So when I was 18, enrolled on a course for performing arts. So my mom said, basically, I had to quit rugby, had 2 head injuries, couldn't play rugby anymore. And I basically pissed around for a year, working in a nightclub, serving drinks. And my mom said, you need to go to college or get a real job. And I said, okay, let's check out college. So I looked at electrical engineering and performing arts. And I went down to the college, looked at the performing arts course, met the leader of that course. She said, you should do this. And I never went to see the electrical engineering course. And I was listening to something last night about like quantum things and decision making, and how that was a moment that that's one of those moments that splits. Had I have gone into electrical engineering, I'd probably not be in Bali right now. I'd have probably ended up working as a Sparky in Australia, or on a set or something in film. And instead I went down the performing arts route, using talents that were existent in myself, but they weren't necessarily what I wanted to do. It was sort of like my mom made the decision. I look at my teens and I'm like, there was another decision I had to make. Do I go skateboarding or do I go play rugby? Again, do I do the athletic sport, or do I go skate and injure myself? So there's all these like splits in my time, and this one specific split was what led me on this journey that I've been on for probably 15 years now. So and that was driven by a heartbreak as well. It's like, fuck it, because I get to go sing. I get to go and perform, and I got a lot of jip for it. A lot of people taking the piss out of me because I was a rugby player that went to learn how to dance and do ballet and jazz and contemporary and hip hop. And they're like, oh, that's gay. And I'm like, no, I get to be around very beautiful girls all day, and I am getting to sing and do comedy and act and dance, and it's fun. Like, so, but it was never like, even when I got into drama school, I never saw myself as an actor. Never. I didn't mind being in the background and coming on, having like a bit part. I felt like a performer. It was always like I was performing rather than acting or whatever the other version of that is. And even after 3 years of training, still didn't feel like an actor. There was probably one moment during that time where I felt, fuck, I came off stage and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm an actor. But throughout it all, I had this imposter syndrome. So I never felt like it because I always thought, I'd rather be just making sets, rather be just be a blacksmith and make swords for Game of Thrones. You know, and be in the background like a bit part. I never wanted to be a lead. So I feel like a lot of actors want to be the lead in something. Not me. I would have been a bit part. I don't mind. Like,
Ooh, but then I wonder with that then, because would you say now? I appreciate it's difficult, but objectively, would you say you were a good actor?
depends on the role, depends on the director, depends on the script, depends how I'm feeling that day. So, am I a good actor? Yeah. Yes, because I think in everyday life, we wear a mask. We have to put on a face. But it's still that version of you. Even if you're like, all of this transformational thing that Tony Robbins talks about and coaches talk about you have to be in the energy and the vibration of a certain thing in order to have that come to you and attract that into your life. That's the same. That's basically fake it till you make it. But you're not faking. You are putting yourself into a different vibration in order for you to deal with a certain situation. That's acting. You're just given the words to say when you're acting. Whereas in real life, you have to improvise. That's why I go to improv classes every week. It keeps your like muscles going and thinking on the spot. Like right now, we're improvising. We're not got a script, but and we're in a situation that we have to put our versions of ourselves as this version to present and explain and tell stories. And if we take off the mask and become a different, okay, so now I'm like lay back.
But I don't know. I think there's a beauty in just kind of embracing that's very interesting. So, because it sounded for me like even on stage, you had this mask out there, like super extravagant, confident, but then inside you were feeling this imposter syndrome, like you didn't belong there.
That's why I always had stage fright. That's why I forgot my lines a lot, because I freak out, because it's unnatural to me. And yet everyone now would say the complete opposite. They'd say that was very natural for me to do. But I suffered with tremendous stage fright. I remember I was given 10 minutes I was given to prepare a piece to perform, song, dance, monologue, whatever it was. I wanted to sing. And 10 minutes go by and I'm stuck. I've got pain in my chest. I've got pain in my solar plexus. I'm sitting in the corner of the room, like shaking, and I start crying, and I'm like, I can't do what I want to do because it didn't feel natural to me. In the end, I did a scene from a film that I've been watching since I was like 5 years old, but I didn't sing the song I wanted to sing. I couldn't get it out. I was like,
You lost your voice
completely.
But this is interesting because often you say, right, I would say to people, right, chase the discomfort, chase the fear, because that's usually the step that you need to do to, grow and expand yourself, right? So I wonder in your instance, how could you tell the difference between, okay, this is like good discomfort and bad? Because some people might say, okay, maybe you needed that push, and at the time, I presume you weren't thinking about this disconnect between what you're doing and who you truly are, but what would you say to that then? Because can you maybe push yourself too much, and how do you know if this is like a good fear or this is out of alignment fear?
You do fitness, right? Do you run?
More so jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah,
for
but
my fitness,
do you do cardio?
Occasionally.
So let's put it this way. If I said you had to go and do a 10K right now, do you feel prepared and ready for it?
I wouldn't say prepared, but I'd probably be like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
You would do it, but would you struggle?
At the pace I used to, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would get it done, but it would be difficult, yeah.
Okay. What about a marathon or a half marathon? You ready?
It's funny you say this because I've actually signed up to do a 13.5k in Australia with my sister, and I had the option of doing just a 5k. And bearing in mind, I haven't actually run properly for a year. I've just done some occasional stuff in the gym, and my mindset now going into it is going to be, fuck it, I'm going to do the 13.5, no training, and test really how capable is the mind of doing hard shit. So yeah, to answer your question, would I believe I can do it? Yeah, but would I be best prepared for it? Absolutely not.
And what would you need to do to be prepared for it mentally as well? Is that the work you've already been doing, and then specifically geared towards this, or?
Yeah, I mean, if it was a half marathon, I'd incorporate probably interval training during the week. I would do a longer run on the weekends, I think.
Okay. My point is that I had 10 minutes to prepare something. I'd never been given the task to prepare a performance piece. I was just an ADHD kid that used to like to make people laugh. You know, I'd sing after a rugby game in the clubhouse because I was egged on to do it, and I was probably a bit drunk. So to then, with full awareness, full consciousness, prepare something that I didn't know. I'd never learned a full song. I always had words. And so 10 minutes to do that sent me into meltdown, sent me into full panic mode. It wasn't that I didn't think I couldn't do it. It was that I'd never done it before. And I freaked the fuck out. And then again, throughout my training, I had moments where I forgot my lines. And it got used against me a lot because I was known as the guy who forgets his lines. And I used to have, up until probably 2 or 3 years ago, I used to have nightmares about forgetting my lines on stage. And they made a song at the end of the 3 years. We always had like a banter, but there was like a song where they created it for every member of the class. And one of the songs, like my lyrics were about like me forgetting my lines. And it was never because I didn't learn them. It was because my nervous system and I was in panic before going on. I wasn't regulated, and I didn't feel confident in my ability to regulate or feel calm. And I was full of anxiety and anxious and really not in a good place mentally at 21, like 22. I was on didn't take antidepressants either. I'd moved away from home, and it was all a bit much for me moving to London from a small town in the countryside. And that, like, just this pain here and all the unable to, already feeling tense and pain before I go on to do a 2.5 hour show where I don't have many lines, but the ones I do have are crucial to the plot moving forward. And also doing Shakespeare, you have to say what the line says. There is no other version. You can't ad-lib Shakespeare because it's a 400-year-old text. Therefore, a lot of people know it, and you know if it's not right. Whereas you can with a bit of like American realism and maybe some, I don't know, English. In some circumstances, you can't ad-lib stuff when you're in a West End musical and you're told what to say. That's very much strict in line. But on a film set, maybe for a character that, you know, maybe has a throwaway line, you can do that. Now, like same with Shakespeare. So you've got all that pressure, putting yourself in a high pressure situation that you're not naturally used to. It's very difficult to calm yourself. Nerves, lots of nerves, and it really matters because you then got 100 people, 1,000 people looking at you, and then you're like, midway through, you're like, and then you're stuck, and your brain just goes blank, and you're already anxious, and then you're on stage, like you come straight out of character, you're like, thank God I got over that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did pro wrestling for a while. Very similar. You go into a character and you have to stay in your character, and the moment you break it, it's like, okay, the illusion's gone now, and the heart rate. If you don't know how to regulate that, you know, you're pretty fucked, to be honest. Like you're just going, like it's so and that'd be in front of maybe like 150, 200 people, but then you'd get the same if it was in front of like 20 people, 50 people. It's still the same feeling. And I spoke to pro wrestlers who've been doing it for maybe they've had 300 matches, for example, and they still get that feeling.
The nerves, yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I was talking on previous episodes with Tristan, who's a breathwork coach, and he was saying, right, these are just tools that, we didn't know of before, but they can actually really help regulate our system. That's a real thing. And I was also wanted to touch upon, because you've touched upon it a couple of times now, where you were sort of picked on and stuff, and I wonder how much of that has left an imprint on you today, because obviously there would be that reaction when you were younger, and there would be that inner child stuff, right? I wonder if that still affects you now, and how do you look back on it? Because for me, I can't get offended by anything anyone says now, because when you start doing more work in yourself, you become more aware of what other people are doing, and you know that if someone's saying shit to you now, it's like, okay, well, you can see why they're doing it, because their egos need something it needs to hide something because they're insecure about themselves. So it's impossible to take it personally. Do you have that approach now, or do you still find sometimes it can catch you off guard a bit?
Kids are mean, but they have no filter, and they only say what they feel and mean at the time. And back then, so it's funny you should say that, because I've been to a childhood trauma workshop over the last week, done 2. So, and even last night I was like listening to music that I listened to in my teens, and then like took me back to that era of my life. And then last week I was going back to school, so all these memories are popping up about what happened when I was younger, and I'm starting to try and nurture that younger self, that kid in me that did have all of the crap going on and the pills I had to take, and I was like 6 foot at 13 years old. I grew up pretty quickly. I shot up. So I stuck out like a sore thumb. I was loud because I was just big. I was a big kid. And then puberty was not kind to me, man. Like, I was ugly. I went from this like really cute curly blonde haired kid that everyone, like all my family loved, but so there's no like massive traumas from childhood. There's like, my granddad died when I was 3, but there's nothing bad happened to me apart from anaphylactic shock from eating peanuts, and I had a couple of fits. I didn't have like major trauma. I wasn't like, you know what I mean? I didn't have the bad trauma.
Well, this is something important as well, because that was my mentality for a while. I didn't experience any traumatic event. In my mind, traumatic meant you'd been like something really serious,
abused
incident.
or something.
Yeah, but like the obvious form of abuse. The school stuff, I think, has a really big impact on you as well.
I hate school, man.
Me too. I was again looking back. Of course you're loud, but I think I refused to. Perhaps you were like this as well. You kind of just refused to try and fit in a little bit. I never really catered towards big groups. I was kind of like by myself, and I had a couple mates and stuff. But yeah, I struggled, I think, for a long time as well.
Yeah, I felt very lonely as a kid, even though I was from a big family and I had some friends. It's funny actually. When I was like 5, I had a best friend called Sam, and then he moved away. He was like lived around the corner, very close, and then they moved. I don't know where they went. Never saw him again. And fast forward to moving to Bali when I'm like 33, and I've got a best mate here called Sam, and I feel like that's the friendship that I missed out on as a kid, and feels like my brother. I never had like brotherly friends, and then I had a lot of I had 2 major friends at the end of my through school, and then into my teens and into my 20s, and then when COVID hit, both of them kind of just ditched me. They're no longer my friends. I kind of wanted to cut them off, but then you have this sunk cost fallacy that they're your mates. So you when you go back, you see them, and then you're like, oh, I don't really agree with what they're saying. But then you go away again, and you're like, oh, they're my friends. They're the people who know me the finding and I know them. And I'm finding it really hard to connect with people in London because it's a diabolical place that's so big, but yet you feel so isolated there. I think I'm going off on a tangent, but I think going back to, again, what was driving me, I look back and I think I would rather have, at 21, gone and lived in Australia and just done a tradie job and learned to surf, and whatever would have come from that would have happened. There's these moments in time like where it splits, and I think I'd go back, and I wasn't ready to go to London. I wasn't ready to go to drama school. I would have probably deferred, but I went because it was the last year that it would have been $3,000 a year to go. That's when they put the fees up to 10 grand the next year. So I go, okay, I've got this place at this drama school. Logically, I'm like, I'm never going to get this opportunity again because I'm not going to be able to afford it. There's no student loan, etc., etc. So I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. But I didn't really want to do it. So this whole thing has just been
based off of societal conditioning.
I mean, if it was societal conditioning, I would have never even seen performing arts. I would have just done electrical engineering. I would have done the sensible thing and got a trade. Part of me wishes I had.
Well, there again, yeah, because I've noticed like there's been a pattern of, okay, there's this point in my life and I went down this road, and this point where I would have done this road. But I think there's a beauty in kind of accepting and kind of letting go of that idea, right? Like,
yeah.
All what's happened has happened, and it's led you up to where you are now, and you are who you are now because of your experiences. So I find this a really interesting idea, because we can think about, okay, what could have been, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but the reality is you are who you are now based off of all these life experiences. And I think there's something fairly special about that, right? Like, you are who you are now because of that. And I wonder, have you struggled in the past with kind of holding on to what could have been, and how have you reframed that in your mind?
Yeah, I have made some really shit decisions in the past, things that have completely ruined opportunities for myself. I've overcomplicated auditions, which meant that I was too stressed and anxious when I went in the room, and I fucked up. There were things I did in my teens that messed up my ability to play rugby, because I would jump down 2 flights of stairs with a skateboard knowing that I'm not a fucking skater. Like, I just thought it was cool. And then I'd turn up to training with a blown up knee, and yet I have opportunities to play for county and then Midlands and then whatever trials were after that. And then there are it's taken a long time to forgive myself for something I did when I was 17 years old, where I stole something from my rugby club that was on the side of the pitch. I took it, and it was a shirt. It was an Italy shirt, and I picked it up. I don't know why. At the time, I was obsessed with the Italian rugby team. I loved the Bergamasco brothers because they looked like me. There was no one that looked like me in the England rugby team, but the Italians with the long curly hair, and I just loved that thing. And they were passionate, and they played with passion. They may have been shit, but they played with passion, and they had a great national anthem. So I loved it. I was like, there's an Italy shirt. My mate's Italian. I'm going to get that, and I'm going to give that to my mate as a gift. And I'm like 17, in a rugby academy. I take it, put it in my bag, walk out of the doors, and the coach, who went on to coach Wales, said to me, "Oh, have you seen a shirt that was lying around on the side of the street? Sorry, on the side of the pitch." And I was like, "Yeah, I got it here." I gave it back. And he goes, "Oh, you trying to take it?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, so I got caught stealing something, and I wish I'd never stole it. It's not that I wish I hadn't owned up to it, it's that I wish I hadn't taken it in the first place." I'm happy that I owned up to it. That's where I know I have, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fine, I fucked up. But I just wish I'd never done it in the first place. Because then it would have been a different story. I wouldn't have felt ashamed. I didn't show up to training, and then I got kicked out. And that left me lost. Because for years I just focused on, I want to be a rugby player. And then I had to let go of that and rechannel it. Dropped out of art school. Then I did the thing where my mum said, get a job or go to college. Went to drama school, and now all of a sudden I'm an actor. And so I've had to pivot, like I said, multiple times because of silly decisions I've made, injuries, things not working for me or having a mental breakdown and having to redirect. And so I like the fact that I can pivot, because if one thing goes wrong, I know that I have the ability to start something completely fresh, completely new. And I may not forgive or let go of those things, but I know that I can start something new at any point.
Yeah, I like that perspective, and I also feel like I think just accepting that okay, things are the way they are, and that's what's happened, and there's a reason why that's happened. Perhaps that the rugby wasn't your destiny, or whatever it may be. But I think as long as we learn from these experiences, because I think the universe will continue to give you challenges until you learn from them, and you'll continue repeating the same patterns, right? And you'll keep wondering, why does this keep on happening? Why does this keep on happening? But then the second you go, okay, right, there's a pattern here, and I'm talking from personal experience here, as soon as you notice, right, something's going on, then that's where you can, right, start taking, there's the awareness, and then taking responsibility and moving towards action. And I think as long as you view everything as a blessing from the universe,
Yeah.
no matter how difficult that is, I think you can start seeing, right, okay, thank you for this lesson, what's it trying to teach me? I think when you have that outlook to life, it can help, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was able to reframe dengue fever and losing 8 kilograms in a week and a half from being a fitness trainer and doing that because it was low-hanging fruit. Like coaches going, oh, well, you look muscly and you into fitness, why don't you just be a fitness coach just so you can make some money? And then that not being the thing that I actually want to do, but just using it as a way to make money, and then all of a sudden I get dengue fever, strips me of all of what I've built. 2 months I didn't even train, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, right, I've got to go back to who I am, what I do, like, and previous coaching experience doing the voice training, and moving that into my embodying that, reading Think and Grow Rich. What does someone who has a coaching business that does this do? How am I going to do this? What's the best way to optimize it? How do I get leads? And then all of a sudden I'm on this new trajectory of a new reality, new lifestyle, and changing appearances. Like I'm having beard trims that I never had before, and I have a girlfriend now that like I wouldn't have been with if I was in this other part of my life. And I'm training twice a week, and I'm happy with that, rather than 5 times a week bullying myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the change of identity as well, right? Because I noticed when I go through different phases of life, I'll change my hair. So I had the classic like shorter hair at school, then I had like the curtains phase, beginning of uni and traveling, and then I remember having like a man bun, shaved sides, and then at the end of uni I chopped that off, and then I had a mullet, and now season 2 of the podcast I've like got rid of that. So yeah, I kind of identify with that as well.
I grew my hair so I could headbang to heavy metal.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I listened to heavy metal when I was a kid. I listen to heavy metal now. I was like, dude, it's so horrible headbanging with no hair.
Do you think there's something in listening to heavy metal? I was discussing this with my girlfriend not too long ago.
Do you listen to heavy metal?
I don't, but I've heard parts of it because pro wrestling and a lot of pro wrestlers like heavy metal, obviously.
Kane, Undertaker,
Those are my guys.
Triple H.
But I wonder if there are reasons why we listen to certain music in terms of our personality, like that energy of heavy metal.
Why do I like heavy metal? It does provoke an emotion. It's like power, because it gets all of these like visceral, gruesome parts of ourselves and then turns it into a dun 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 like that, and then it's like it's an aggressive, a release of a release of aggression. Yeah.
Do you still go to sort of festivals, nights out now, or?
I've been in Bali for 2.5 years, and I've seen quite a lot of live music here, which is good. And I play. I play live, so I have my own gigs.
Oh, so you are playing now?
I've been playing, yeah.
Oh, I see, because you've always wanted to do that then. So is there a part of you that is kind of living your dream from a while back? Are you thinking, okay, right, now's my chance to finally do something that I want to do?
I love being on a stage now. Like I always try and seek a stage, whether it's to perform music, poetry, or acting. And so while I was here, I have fallen more in love with country music over the last few years, maybe 4 years now. I used to have a van, and I used to travel around England in my van, and I'd set up like the breakfast stuff in the morning, make bacon and eggs, and listen to Chris Stapleton. There was just something wholesome and like really grounding around country music and the storytelling of it and the soul. And throughout 2023, I was going through a heartbreak and a lover that was in another country that we were breaking up, and the breakup lasted forever. And through it all, I learnt as much music as I could, and country music seemed to have all of the same like stories that felt like they resonated with me, and I resonated with those stories as well, whether it was Stapleton, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Tyler Childers. All of those artists really give me the inspiration, and also I play, so they give me songs that help me get through certain emotions. And so coupled with grunge and 80s stuff and 90s, I've got a wide array of things I like to cover. I'm happy to play other people's music, and I've tried to write my own, but I'm not necessarily a musician per se. I'm a singer, and I write lyrics and I can write poetry, but when it comes to putting all of that together to create a song, a music, I've always thought that I need the Frusciante to his Anthony Kiedis. So Kiedis is the singer and the writer of lyrics, Frusciante is the melody maker, and then you add the bassist and the drummer. So for a long time, I would love to have someone to just jam with, and then create that duo, like those famous duos of people that create the actual music together. No one ever remembers the bassist or the drummer for the most, unless the bassist is the lead singer. So it's like I just need one musical mind who's genius with music, who can then we can bounce off each other.
I think that's a good point, because a lot of people have these talents, but there's perhaps one aspect of a thing, you've mentioned music there, which they don't quite understand. And I think that's really important for people to hear. If there is a part of you that you think, okay, you can't do, but you can do the rest of it, go out and look for help. Because I think the reality is a lot of people either want to help or are looking for a similar partner. And I think a big part of what we should do is actually going out, seeking those opportunities. I think because we can get these limiting beliefs that, we can't do it because we don't know X, Y, and Z. But we live in a world where we have so much access to information, access to people. We've just got to go out and do it, right?
Yeah, I feel like through a lot of my life I've made the wrong decision. So when it comes to making a decision, I feel like I need an extra ear. So it's like I need to have someone there to help me through it, because I don't want to get it wrong. I fear get it wrong because I've got it wrong too many times before. In my eyes, probably some people would think differently. But to me, I feel like I'm scared to get things wrong, especially when it comes to writing music or making music, because it's so that the feedback from that is so immediately available. Like if you do stand-up comedy and you get up on stage, the feedback's there. If no one's laughing, are you still funny? So it's the same with the music. It's like if someone goes, it's like, at least as a painter, you can paint something, stick it on a wall, fuck off out of there, and you don't have to see anyone's reaction to it. Where it's different if you're making something that someone has to listen to or watch.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I was about to ask you, can you not get that knowingness or that confidence within? Okay, it's good, so fuck what everyone else thinks, it doesn't matter. But I guess with music, if you're following a piece, I suppose, with notes, then I guess that makes sense. But I don't know, I do think, what is wrong? Is anything universally right or wrong? I mean, I guess with music, like you said, it's a bit more complicated if there's notes and stuff. But I do think, because I can relate to the asking other people for advice stuff, and I found that in my case, I wasn't actually asking people for advice. I was asking them for approval. As in, I wouldn't give myself permission, so I needed someone else. I still catch myself sometimes doing it with my girlfriend. I'm like, oh, what do you think of this? And I'm like, actually, no, hang on a sec. I've got to jump in there and be like, right, okay, I'm not going to upload all my stuff to her. Let's work this out, and let's trust myself to make that decision. Yeah. And I think that's quite an important thing to do. But as you've mentioned, if you want someone's expertise and they've already gone on that path, then absolutely go and seek their advice or their opinion, same as anything, but mainly make sure they've gone on the path that you want to go on. Otherwise, there's no point, I suppose.
I'm a big critic of myself, so I'll listen to something back and I'm like, that's horrible. And someone will say, no, it's really good. I'm like, no, it's not.
Your own worst critic, right?
Yeah, no, but I know why it's bad. Like, I'm like, okay, my soft palate wasn't up. I wasn't like technically connected to my voice. My support wasn't there. I didn't reach the note I wanted to reach, and I didn't warm up properly. I shouldn't have smoked those cigarettes 2 days ago.
Well, this is the thing. I think a lot of that is just noise, to be honest, mate. And I see this in everyone, right? They've done something like really fucking cool from the outward eye, but because they're a perfectionist, and this happens with myself as well, they'll notice the very small details and they'll notice stuff. And again, yeah, my girlfriend is an amazing artist, just paints these amazing things, and it's so unique. And I'll look at her and it's like, wow, this is incredible. And she's like, oh, no, I don't like that one. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, and she'll point out like a really small detail. And I'm like, come on, that's incredible. And I wonder in your case, obviously if someone's an expert in something, they might notice these small details, but I do think there's beauty in imperfection. I think that's almost what makes us unique, right? And perhaps if you went to see your favorite artist, perhaps it might make it more memorable if perhaps something they did wasn't right or wasn't the way you thought it was going to be. Maybe there's a beauty in that to an extent.
I watched a documentary over the weekend about one of my favorite bands and the lead singer, and it was about Alice in Chains and Lane Staley. And there's a performance that he does in the 90s. They have an MTV Unplugged session, and he was a heroin addict. He wasn't going through like a good time in his life, and he came to perform at MTV Unplugged with his band, and his voice is very haunting. His voice is amazing, one of the best in my opinion, and it does sound better than the tracks, because obviously that's mastered and recorded in a certain way, and they get it right and then they tweak it. But this guy has, like, obviously he had probably done heroin a few days before and he was probably needing it, but he came in still fucked up to do the music, and he sang it, and because of the mood of the music, I mean, it was off key, he kept fucking up, he was falling off his chair, like they kept messing up the same song over and over again. But when you watch that and understand that this music is all that's going on inside of him and his like experience of life as a heroin addict, not wanting to be one, pain and the amount of sorrow and pain he's going through, the way that he delivers it, the imperfection makes sense because he is suffering, and it's hard to listen to. It's amazing to listen to because it's so powerful and real and truthful and no sugarcoating. It's not like some highly edited performance. It's just raw, and it's really sad. And someone commented on it actually and suggested that he was singing at his own funeral. He was signing out, basically. And yeah, so that side of imperfection makes sense, because but that's his voice, that suits him, that's his story. Now, if I'm singing someone else's song, I didn't write that, it's not coming from... I could find the imperfections in my own work, but if I'm covering someone else and I'm playing someone else's song, or I'm singing in a musical where you have to be pitch perfect and on point to appease the ego and the people who are paying to come and see the story, not necessarily the character. If you're doing a musical like Les Mis, it's 3.5 hour show, you have to sing it exactly the way it was sung 25 years ago, 30 years ago. It's not like you can be off pitch. You can bring your version of you can bring your sound to it, obviously. There's many people who've played characters in those musicals, but you have to be on it all the time, you know? There's no room for ad-lib or playing around with riffs in that kind of thing. So I think that's where I've had a great music and singing teaching and technique and built that up in myself for that type of music. But then when it comes to like artistry of it and writing my own and then adding that that's where I've become a perfectionist because of the way I learned how to sing.
And I think the issue, coming back to your point about other people's work, the issue is, right, no matter how hard we try, if there's one little mistake, okay, right, that's a flaw and you have to be perfect. And I think a lot of that actually comes through our conditioning, right? Because in an ideal world, right, you take the emotion out of it and it's just, if you're looking at it objectively, okay, you didn't quite get it right this time. But what do? We decide, right, we get this trigger, which stemmed from childhood, and then we go down this deep wormhole of I'm not good enough, I'm fucking shit. And I really, really think we should take this into account. I think even when we, whether we bring kids into this world or not, but they did a study once with kids and they did 2 separate tests. And I remember one, the parents or the caregiver told them when they achieved something, they said, "Oh, well done, you've achieved this thing, absolutely incredible, you've done such a great job, you've done it. You're amazing." And with the other set of kids, when they achieved this goal, they told them, "Oh wow, I can see you've tried really hard there. Well done. Your effort was really, really good." And what ended up happening was the guys who were congratulated on their efforts rather than their achievement, they ended up having a higher life satisfaction and being more successful generally. Right. And this is what I think. I think what I see with a lot of my clients as well is that their identity is tied to success and their sense of self-worth is tied to that success. And when they don't receive that, they go down a very negative spiral and they feel very shit about themselves. Whereas, if we just celebrate what we can do, what we can control, and our efforts, then I think that would be rewarded. It's the same as building a business. You can't focus on, and I get it, right? You're going to focus on the numbers. How many sales have we done this week? But ultimately, if you're focusing on something that yes, you can control your output, and the different marketing tools and that type of thing. However, I think you've got to celebrate, right, doing the action, especially if you're like a small business owner, celebrate the outreaches that you do and the stuff that you can control. Whereas if you're telling yourself, I need to make X number of sales this week or get on X number of calls, then the fate's not in your hands. And I think that can be quite dangerous and for your well-being and motivation.
Yeah, I remember in rugby, the coach would be like, it's what you do when no one else is watching. But in life, you don't really get paid for that bit, like the outreach, all the back end stuff, all of the training you do behind the scenes to show the product of the body or on the pitch or in the where do you do on the mat, and so you never really get praised for the rehearsal either. You're always just told, oh, can you do it a bit like this instead? Oh no, change the way you say that. You do the work, you bring it in, director says, no, I don't like that, do something else. And then everything is geared towards performance, and with acting, all the rehearsals were paid less than the actual performance. So it's like everything is performance-based. That's something that when I did the childhood trauma thing the other day, the guy said, when play becomes your purpose, performance is the result.
Yes, I am super passionate about this idea, right? I think if we're talking about why are we here and the essence of life, I think what happens is we get so tied to all this external stuff and we're very, very focused, and we focus on, right, we need to get this business, we need to get into a relationship and all of these games, but that's all they are. I think they're just games of life. And when you take life too seriously, you're not really living because you're just thinking about the future and you're not in the now, right? And I think by getting the most we can get the most out of life by taking all the stress and like thinking about the future, about these results, stop putting emphasis on the results and think, right, how can I create that joy now without those things? Because then I truly believe if you can create that in your mind now, which is very possible through different ways, then when you reach the external success and you reach your goals, you stay exactly the same. Your joy is exactly the same, right? And nothing changes, but because you're fulfilled within yourself, you're not reliant on that thing. And I really think anyone can transform their mind and they can rewire it, because the reality is a lot of our conditioning is, like we were saying, societal conditioning or from our parents or from your sort of music mentors, whoever they may be, and it's like always tied to success. And I think we have a responsibility as an adult to take all of that and see it for what it is, which is just almost brainwashing. It's just conditioning. That's all it is. And I think anyone can rewire their brain to then take themselves out of it, take their identity away from the ego, and then think, okay, what is actually important to me? And I think that's quite an important step in the process.
I think the one thing that really taught me this, and what I learned from Bali, was surfing and learning to surf. That was like the psychology of it for me is like, you are literally paddling out to catch a wave in, to paddle out to catch a wave in, paddling out, and you're going to get beaten up by a wave. The ocean's not kind. If you go in with a bad mood, it can swallow you up, literally throw you over the top of a wave. It can snap your leash. You have to swim in, nearly drown. A board can hit you. Other people can hit you. There's so many variations that it can mess you up, and that it's very hard to get it wrong, because then you've got to worry about, like, do I pop up at the right time? And then you're on the wave, and then it only lasts for like 5 seconds. And then you're like, I want to do that again. So you paddle back round, and you wait, and then another one comes, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to go for it. And then someone else is on it, you're like, oh, no. So it really taught me that whole, I might not be getting on the biggest waves, and I might not be riding them for long, and I might be on a long board and everyone else on a short board, but I'm having fun, and I love it, and the feeling is amazing, and that is what it is for me. I dreamed for years of waves. Like, I would be in England, I'd close my eyes, and I could just see waves like rolling in when I like fall asleep. So when I got here and put myself in the water, I nearly drowned in the first 2 weeks from a leash breaking at Batu Belong, and I didn't go in for 5 months, and then I gradually built up, and I haven't been recently, actually. That's the point. I should probably go surfing again. So I haven't caught a wave for a while. I've paddled out a few times and just nothing. I haven't caught anything, and that's when it starts to be like, oh, why am I bothering? There's no point. Can't catch waves. But then I know that the more time I spend in the water, the more chance I'm going to get a wave. It's the same with my work. It's the same with any art that you do. Sometimes you're not going to have any inspiration, because I'm not going to get those winds of like catching a wave. But then I know that I will at some point. There's the belief system. Now, I would love to apply that to other parts of my life, and love to have the same, oh, that was great, let's do it again. Or, like, for example, I get a client, get paid, great. And then I'm like, it's like I don't paddle back out. I'm like, I'm content. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, oh shit, I need to work again. So I go into fight mode again and survival, and I'm like, fuck. Whereas the only time I'm not like that is, I'm like, I get a wave and I'm not content. I'm like, let's go again, back out. Oh, let's go again, back out. Same with me going to the gym. It's consistent. It's trying to find consistency in work and business is hard, because it reminds me too much of school.
I guess the difference though is that you haven't got someone else telling you to do, and that was similar for me. I really didn't like that. Again, reminded me of school. But coming back to your point, I think there's so much beauty. It's the small wins. And it's these little moments. Everyone thinks it's this big goal, but it's not. It's like, okay, I've got onto the surfboard, and I remember when I was surfing, I tried so hard to get onto the boards. I think it was one of my first sessions. This was back in Florianopolis in South America, and I remember going on, and I remember I would get onto the board maybe 3 times, and each time it was so exciting, because I'm like, oh fuck, I actually got onto the board. And then obviously I just fell off straight away because I got too excited and I didn't move. But same as jiu-jitsu, right? It's not about, there's different belts, right? You've got white belt, blue belt, purple, black, and everyone's thinking, well, some people might think, oh yeah, like I want to get a black belt, I want to get a blue belt. The types of guys who strive for belts, I think, and just focus solely on that and nothing else, I think those are the guys who end up quitting jiu-jitsu quite early, because they tied it to that. It's so much more than that. I think it's awesome, don't get me wrong. If you get a belt as a recognition of all the small reps you've put in, I think it's fucking cool. However, I think the beauty of jiu-jitsu and why I love it so much is because it's those small sessions, just seeing yourself get a tiny bit better, And just the constant, it's the journey. You know, 1 minute you're like, oh my gosh, like I did so well. I held my own against this purple belt who's got 7 years experience. Like, fuck, that's great. You'd feel great. And then the next roll, you'd get tapped out by someone who's half your size. And it's humbling, and it keeps you humble, but it's that unexpected nature of it. And I think that is the beauty of life. It's the unexpected. And I think a lot of suffering comes because we place expectations on the world. We try and control the world, and it all comes down to control. When we think we have an idea of what we're going to control, I think that causes a lot of pain, because we can't control the stuff we think we can control. People's reactions, the weather, all of these things we're trying to control. It's our expectations. And when our expectations aren't met, then we get really frustrated. And I think by relinquishing all types of control, we can't even control ourselves, really. Like, we think we're in control of our thoughts and behaviors. Even those are as a result of conditioning. Like, you didn't choose to be born into this world. Obviously, what a miracle, what a fantastic thing to happen to us. But we can't control what we've received at school and our reactions when we were younger. We can't control anything. Like, all of our, even you can look at political beliefs, spiritual beliefs, all of these are as a result of our experiences, right? I think we carry a lot of this stuff into adulthood, and what happens, I think, like, in terms of triggers, right? Not the exact situation, but what we're triggered by. And in your case, obviously, it was the school stuff and what you're being told. And I think we carry that into adulthood, right? And we have an option. I think a lot of the time we're in autopilot, we feed into that stuff.
I got a question. So what would you consider childhood? From what age to when? Does my teenage years from 13 to 18 count as being a child? Am I a child then? Or are we on about in the first 7 years where we create most of our beliefs and systems around?
So I heard it was the first 7 years of our life where we generate our relationship with money comes from what I've heard.
Okay, so I'm just wondering where my abandonment wound came from. Because I know I had one, because I had it in my teens, but I don't remember being abandoned before that. My mom and dad were there. I was very homesick. That homesickness that I'd get, like, when I was on any trip with school or with the scouts, was very similar to what stage fright feels like. It's like, I want my mom to come and help me, and I think not ever being allowed to stray from the nest, and every time there was any formative year where you're meant to experience a little bit of freedom and go step a little bit further away from your caregiver and explore something else, like outside of the safety zone of what your mom and your dad have given you. I was never really allowed to go outside of the safety zone. And so by the time I could go outside the safety zone, I felt really homesick. I was like, oh, I need my mom. So I'd run home, or I'd ask, I'd feel so sick, nauseous, that I'd come and get me. Like, my mom would come and get me. So I think that moving to, before I came to Bali, having been offered something here to come and do, I had a girlfriend at the time, and being flown here, I had to do it on my own. So I broke up with my partner at the time, and I needed to just go. Like, I was given the opportunity, so I was like, yes. And I left. And I didn't want to have anyone with me. And there's probably messed up things around my love life, but I also knew that if I didn't do this on my own, come to Bali and do that just off my own back and with myself, then it would have just been another sort of situation where I don't leave unless my mom's there. Do you know what I mean? Even though that's not the style of relationship I had with my girlfriend, it felt like when I wanted to do that and go and find freedom, it was from a place of defiance against my mom. And sadly, my ex-partner had to deal with the repercussions of that, which it's quite a lot for her, and probably not the best way to do it, but I finally did it, and found independence from that. It took a long time. Like even moving to London, I was like 3 hours from home, but it never felt like I'd fully left the nest, you know? And even these days, like I get my mom reaching out to me like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" Like she's very worried all the time. She's been, for the longest I've known my mom, she's been worried. So I think that's because of she lost her dad when she was 28. So that's been projected onto her kids. As soon as I see that in other relationships in my life, I'm like, oh, run. So I want freedom from that. So when someone tries to go like that, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. It's the same with jobs. Like I hope this doesn't get put up and someone's gonna like watch this as like an interview for a job. So if I have a interview and get a job and then I get the job, I'm looking for ways I can quit the job before I've even got it. Because getting closed into something where I feel trapped, like in school or in a job where you're in an office, I start to freak out and I'm like, right, how can I escape this ASAP? What excuse can I come up with that I don't have to do this? And then I'm eject, because it's not free. It doesn't align with the freedom of expression. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of carries over into all
Yeah.
parts of life, right?
I'm basically running away from my parents. Because I get in a job, then you have to speak to someone who's up here, and then I get told off if something goes wrong, and I don't want to have to deal with the shame and the guilt of being told off for getting something wrong. So what's the best thing you can do? Avoid it completely. Bye, run.
And I think awareness is obviously the first step, and you demonstrated that you've got that. So what are you doing now that you're aware of that? Have you done anything to maybe combat that? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah, instead of working for someone else, I work for myself and I work for people I work with. Like I'm serving them. I'm doing it because I want to, and I'm serving them, and that I get joy from seeing them transform and go through the process and develop. And then there are moments where things happen in the process of their transformation that are like key moments, and that brings me so much joy.
That's an interesting point. I think we're meant to be here not for ourselves, but for a wider purpose. I think we're meant to serve other people. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the time our problems arrive from being too self-centered. I think we think the whole world revolves around us. And I truly believe if we stop thinking about what we want to do for ourselves solely, but okay, right, have that goal, but then, okay, how can we expand it and how can we serve a large group of people? How can we make an impact on the earth?
Well, I get this. If I'm working in a call center and I have to make 50 calls a day and get 10 surveys done by the end of the day, who the fuck have I served apart from the company so that they can make more money and pay me the minimal amount that they can, even though that gave me something to do to earn money to pay my rent so I could continue to be an actor? Great, cool, that's the logic. But like doing that now, I mean, it isn't even about the joy for me. It's like what I can do through the amount of pain and struggle I've been through in terms of performance and like speaking and singing, and seeing people that have got a lot more intelligence and a shitload more talent than I have, and they're suppressing that because they're worried about something. I'm like, if I can do it, this person needs to do it. Like they should do it. Like they've got a lot more. Like when I see someone's potential, I'm like, come on, we've got to get this out of you. Like we've got to find you. And I mean, I'm not like a saint. My story might not be for everyone. It might not be the way that everyone should live their life or whatever. But at the same time, there are things that people say to me, oh, how did you do that? I'm like, I just did. It's just part of me now. And I like seeing that. There was a moment where I had with a client and he was very defiant at the beginning. I asked him to do something that was like read a children's book out loud. And he was defiant, he didn't want to do it. And I said, no, just, this is the work, trust me. I was like, come on, let's do it. So he started reading it and was very rigid, like this. I'm like, man, okay. Imagine I'm 5 years old and I don't know what a river is yet. I've seen one, but I need you to show me and describe it to me. And also, you've said 4 names, 3 of which are the main characters and one of them's a dog. Show me the dog. Like, paint the picture for me. Like, really tell the story. Show me, it's here, there's the river. So he acted it out. He did the movements of it. And then I was more engaged. And then at the end of that, I was like, right, let's move on to the next. And he goes, no, can I do it again? And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Let's go again. Bigger. Let's go as big as you can. And so he did it again. And when he finished it, he was like, I want to do it again. He did it again. And then his son was in the house and saw his dad through the window, like reading the story. And he came running out and was like linked onto his dad looking at him reading the story. And then one of the lines was, look, and the kid went like that. And he was fully engaged in the story, and you could see how much it meant to the kid that his dad was like telling this super engaging story. And my client was basically in it. He was so present and in the moment with it that his kid was like, hang on at every single word. I was like, right, that's why I do it.
I love that.
It was amazing, man. I was like,
I love that.
Like I had goosebumps all over me because I was like, it's working. Like,
but that's so important because what your work is doing, it's basically enabling someone to give 100% of their intensity into something. And I think that's so important for everything we do in life. And I spoke about this with Yuri on the podcast as well. We're talking about how we need to give everything 100%, like fully grab onto something. And I think a lot of the time, because we have so much self-doubt due to our experiences, what happens is we're indecisive, first of all, but then once we eventually decide something, we're kind of like 70% in it. We're thinking about what the other option would have been like. And again, you're not getting the most out of life there. Whereas if you choose something, whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, I think just fully embrace it, be 100% present and experience the most out of it. And you can apply that to our ways of thinking as well. How often are you 100% embracing everything around you? Or are you maybe 70% here, even when you're talking to someone? Yeah, if I'm talking to you now and I'm 100% here, then I'm listening to everything that you're saying. But if you're honest with yourself, okay, if you're talking to someone, are you truly 100% there, or are you maybe 70% there and 20% thinking about food later and all these other subconscious thoughts, right? I think that's the key to life. Just embrace everything with 100% of your attention.
absolutely. I mean, I teach that as well on the things I do because, again, it comes down to acting. It's about becoming present in the moment. That's like 101. If you're in the moment, you're in the present. And if you're in the present, then it's more engaging. And you're actually listening to someone. You're not just waiting to say your line. A lot of people do that. I've done that in the past. I haven't learnt my lines as like much as I should have, or I'm worrying about what my next line is rather than listening to what that person's saying that would spur the thought that then I'd go, right. And then that comes from like, where do I radiate from? Am I radiating from my head, my heart, my solar plexus, my stomach? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I've been working with in terms of energy centers, and not necessarily in the energy center. Like, yes, they're chakras, but it's not like I don't promote my work as like Eastern philosophy or like medicine in terms of chakras. But when I talk of energy centers, it's the same parts of the body, but it's like how do you receive in those parts of the body, and where do you radiate from? So if someone's stuck in the head, they're going to be receiving in the head, and they're going to be radiating from the head, and they're going to be cut off from the rest of their body, which means that they're going to probably be shallow breathing. They're not going to be breathing too deep, but it can also set off anxious thoughts, but it can also, you have a lot of your ideas drop in from here most of the time. Whereas things in the body are a bit more feeling. So if someone said something to me once, I felt that. I really felt like that there, or that felt really good, or I hear it and I'm like, oh my god, like that breaks my heart to hear that, and then even in the back of our body, you then got these, when your hair stand up on the back of your neck, and you get goosebumps and shivers, and you're like, oh God, that hit me there. So the point for me is to have an open, free, supple body, so that what someone says, you receive. You can choose to receive stuff in certain locations, but it's nice to listen and wait and receive that. And then once it's said, you can be like, oh, that hit me in that part of my body. Oh, that was quite, like, sometimes it gets you just here, and then it's like, oh God, that set me back a bit. And then you have a little tear in your eye because you hear something that struck you around here. And maybe the person who said it to you was feeling something and holding back tears before they said it, and they're radiating from that part of their body and trying to communicate through that, because body language has a massive play when it comes to communication, and not everything is about the words or the voice or the sound we make. It's where it's coming from as well. So all these idioms, all these phrases that we've heard over the years, like, oh, you haven't got the balls to go say that, or you don't have the guts to say that, or say it with your chest, or, oh, it's coming from the heart, like, oh, my heart goes out to you, like Elon, but maybe not do the Nazi salute. But those kind of idioms and those things are there for a reason, because we're speaking from those different parts of our body, but we also can receive in those parts of our body as well. If a girl looks at us in a certain way, or whoever you're attracted to, who's watching, and if you receive their look here, but it affects you here, that's because you're open to it in that part of your body. So it's interesting. But you've got to be present in order to receive that. And there are people that are too boisterous, over too like this, and there are people who like hold back like this. And not many people live in the present moment.
Yeah. And are you essentially suggesting, is this tying in with this idea of listening to your body? Because that's what will happen with my girlfriend. I think she's so in tune with her body. So when something doesn't feel right, she'll just get a feeling in a certain part of her body, and she'll listen to that rather than try and rationalize it with her head. Is that what you're sort of on about?
Essentially, but you can also communicate from those parts too.
How do people learn to do that?
You feel into it, and depending on, well, when we speak, that we notice how, if we're talking about a tough topic to speak about, we slow down, and if it's something that's painful or has caused us some trouble in the past, or it's quite a touchy subject, you can start to feel where that feels from, and then when you tell that story, you'll be like, oh shit, that's coming from there. Like, you can feel it. You can feel that little knot, or that little bit of pain, or complete opposite. You're feeling excitement and joy. Sometimes I get that, like here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like radiating out the back of my head, like on the top of my head, everything's amazing. I've had this complete new idea and I'm so excited, and it's coming out the top of my head. Or, oh, I've met this amazing girl and it's coming from here. Or, oh my God, this person I met yesterday, like, we had a little flirt and it just felt so good. So, and then you feel it down there. So it's like you said, you feel into your body, but then you can, when you tell that story, or when you're speaking about it, or you're, presenting, you just take note of where that's coming from. But you've got to become more in tune in your body.
And that enables us to tell better stories, appeal to emotions more.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you undo the tension in the body. The best way to get an open body is to undo tension. Relax. Relax the body. Relaxed, supple, tension-free, able to receive, open to receiving, open to listening. And I read this book about the East, in terms of Eastern medicine around the chakra system. And the bit around the throat chakra was that it's where the freedom of expression comes from. But if any one of these are blocked, one doesn't allow the other one to work as well. Without the breath, you don't have the voice. And these energy centers need to be open and free and worked on so that you can express from them or feel from them. And if you know they're there, then, and become more aware of them, you then can feel into them. Like, how often do you, unless you have a stomach ache, how often do you pay attention to the feelings in your stomach?
Yeah, it never used to be often at all. And
Then you got barley belly.
well, aside from barley belly, what I started learning a bit more about it, and I realized that again we get this body reaction from when we're younger, and I found it's a really helpful way to, instead of when we feel that reaction, our automatic response is to rationalize it and say, okay, why am I experiencing this pain or this emotion in my body, and why this feeling that's triggered by our body. So by knowing that, when you get triggered by something, rather than trying to rationalize it and get out the head and get out the ego, I think being able to write, I'm not going to entertain this with thought, and observe what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So that's one way in which I observe the body, but only because of understanding that.
People will give you cues as well on which senses that they receive things in the most. So you've heard someone say to you, "Oh, I see what you mean. That I see. That's a visual." They're very a visual person. "Oh, I see what you mean." Or "I feel that," and then they're feeling it. Or "I hear you." That's the sound. "Oh, I hear what you mean. I see what you mean. I feel what you mean." Around that, I feel is touch, right? So, and then, I mean, what other senses are there? Taste. I mean, I can't really taste. I mean, actually, you can. "Oh, that's left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth." When someone says something a bit uncouth, and you're like, "Oh, that's got a bit of a sour taste, a bit bad taste." Things that are said in bad taste, again, relying on the senses. Taste, sight. Smells a bit fishy to me. Something's a bit dodgy. Oh, it smells a bit odd to me, you know? Even though we're not on about fish and we're not on about anything. If someone, like there's a deal on the table, it smells a bit fishy. They're a sensory in their nose. So people will give you cues on how they are receiving information, even if you're giving it from a different part of your body. Like you might be, more audio, and I hear what you mean. Like you're speak, I hear it, yeah. And I see, I think I use that a lot. I see what you mean. And then I think, I'm in my head a lot. I think and I feel are probably my main two. What would you say yours were?
I'd say that a lot on the podcast. I feel as though...
Yeah. What if you were to think so? Where would you feel that? How would that change?
Well, I guess you'd be wrapped up in your head, wouldn't you?
Now you're guessing. I guess. Now you're questioning your ability to receive information and relay it back.
So you can tell a lot about someone's state of mind just by the words and phrases that they use, right?
Yeah, and I've never done an NLP course. I've never done neuro-linguistic programming, but I love words. I work with them in terms of music and poetry and all of the storytelling. So every word has a lot of information behind it. It has weight. Even the word weight then just felt like boom, because it's heavy. A weight is just the word weight, like the etymology of it, I don't fully know, but you know that weight means, Like when I act that out, I use the gesture of like that, is because I felt the weight, So again, that would say I feel, because I'm feeling the weight of that. When I say the word weight, it's on my shoulder, I'll feel the weight of that. Any word, if you can feel it, basically. Is it messing with your mind a bit?
No, I just think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it really has opened my eyes to the idea that you can really influence other people's emotions and feelings by what you say, and not in the traditional way, not on a surface level way, but just in a very, very subtle way. And this is why I love these, books on persuasion, and I think influence is a classic as well. I find that super interesting, and I would love to hear your opinion on the relation between our body language and what we do, and how that impacts our mental health as well, because I know there's people in that area too, right?
So, when I did mushrooms, I had this thought the next day that all of the sounds and phonetics and ways that the body can make noise and sound and shape it into T's and F's and S's and V's and Z's and all these different sounds, there is only a finite amount of ways in which a human body can make a sound using its vocal box, like voice box, like anatomy. And so I was like, okay, so if there's only a limited amount of sounds, there's only a limited amount of words. And everyone has words, whether it's in Spanish or English, and they're just sounds that have been created by these different parts of our body. And then I was thinking, okay, so if there's a limited amount of sounds and words, there's a limited amount of negative things we can say. And it just basically, to me, it made me feel like words no longer had meaning because there was only a limited amount of them. And therefore, I could choose which words I would say to myself. And it's the same law when it comes to manifestation. You can say affirmations all day, but if there's no feeling behind it,
yes, then
it's not going to work. So it's the same with the negative things that we say to ourselves. Shakespeare said, there is neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So we've chosen what words are negative or positive, and then we say them to ourselves. Like I remember writing in a diary how many bad things I could say about myself, but then what if in an alternate reality all of the bad things we say are actually, they mean good? You know, if we say, oh, I'm a cunt, I'm a this, I'm a that, and then all of a sudden it's like you go to Australia and I'm a sick cunt, I'm a cunt, oh, it's fucking great, you know, like you add a different emotion and feeling to it. So my mind was boggling in this like kitchen the next morning. I'm like, oh my God, I'm writing all this stuff, and I was like, words have no meaning, but then we choose to speak to ourselves in certain words, and that means I can choose what words I say, and then I can choose how I say them to myself and whether they're positive or not, and I can take away the negative ones because they don't mean anything because it's just a sound. And that relates to what your question was, like it didn't mean anything and I add the meaning to it based on my mood.
Wow. And we can apply that to all different walks of life as well, the meaning that we apply. It's all about perspective. Mm-hmm. That has helped me so much because I'd be thinking about these problems, and I then got an insight, which was it's not the problem itself. Like you're making it into a problem because you're attaching meaning to it. Mm-hmm. All it needs is a change of perspective. And then that was like, wow, and that really helped me understand things more from a far more balanced point of view, gave me a lot more peace as well. And I know Joe Dispenza, he talks about that mind-body connection. And mm-hmm. the reason why we sometimes struggle with self-development is because we have that body reaction, but then the mind itself is trying something else. It's trying to improve, but our body's so used to that reaction. And I guess that relates to what you've been saying. We're in disconnect, and that's why there's resistance to change, I think.
Yeah, I remember there would be times in my life where things would be going considerably well, and then all of a sudden that thought would come in of, when's it going to fuck up? What's going to go wrong next? And not allow myself to be in the joy. My body wanted to go back to anticipation of something bad happening because it was so used to it. And I now have to catch myself thinking whether I'm in that kind of space or not. Actually, there's a guy on YouTube called David Bayer, really like him, and he was talking about primal thinking, and I can't remember what the other bit was, but there's these two versions of thinking. There's the one and body feelings, and one that's like really good for us and beneficial, and if we stay in that zone, all these good things are going to happen. It keeps us in this good side of thinking. But then when we go into primal thinking, we become more survivalist. I hate that, I can't do that, we're just protecting ourselves. I don't want to be like that, and then spiral. So it's like, oh, am I in this primal state right now, or am I in this more calm, my nervous system's calm, I'm more happier, more joy, I'm going to be more abundant, things are going to be flowing to me, it's going to be happier, I'm going to be good. So that's how I'm trying to check in. But again, we go into autopilot and things trigger us. Even like waking up at 7:30 to the sound of hammering and loud music can trigger me into the wrong state for the day. which is getting really irritating, to be fair. So
Yeah, it's acknowledging them. I must admit, even when I'm in those periods of a deep sense of joy, there's still certain things that I will find
yeah,
irritating. The big example for me is, those motorbikes with like a really loud exhaust.
yeah, it's jarring. You're like,
It's so unnecessary. The noise
Yeah.
pollution.
it's
Yeah.
way like noise pollution is, but that means you're an auditory person, which means no wonder you're doing a podcast because the sound is important to you. You feel you experience things audio.
And everyone's different.
Yeah. If this was more visual, we'd be out creating a film, I don't know, or something. We're painting it. You'd be painting your feeling. Instead, we're talking about it.
Where do you think that evolves from?
Did you feel seen when you were a kid?
No.
Did you feel heard?
Yes, I think so.
So maybe your medium for getting attention, validation, love, support is more auditory.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because you could really go into that, and I think I was used to words, not actions.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in my relationships with women as well, where I think I was attracted to what my ego wanted. And I think expanding on what you said, perhaps it was what people were telling me, and I feel like I could tell people stuff, but I never felt seen truly by anyone. So I could tell people things, and I would hear stuff, and I would take that as, oh yeah, okay, right, I'm getting that validation, and that's what I got from my usual interactions with women. And it was actually meeting my girlfriend. That was the first time where I actually felt seen.
Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't felt this in my life before. And it took me aback because I was like, hang on a sec, I'm talking to this person and they're actually listening to what I have to say.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful. And for the first time, I think I wasn't, the physical aspect of it, that was always the first thing I noticed. And then it was like, hang on, I've really connected on a soulful, deeper level with this woman. And that's what started to really change me. It's been a huge impact on my life because, again, before I was just going from what I was seeing or from what I was hearing from people. But it was when I was actually seen, because no one actually saw me and saw the good in me, I think. I think my ego got in the way a lot of the time, and that was the first time I felt I think seen. And yeah, I think that's really interesting, actually. That's quite a
Yeah, a lot of
good
people have said
observation.
recently, oh, I see you. They said it to me, oh, I see you. I'm like, oh, what do you see? And then I'm like, actually, no, I know what they see. It's the stuff that I always thought I had, just didn't acknowledge it in myself. I didn't see it in myself. It took a lot of people to see it in me before I could. And I always wait for that person to see it as well.
And that's probably why you put so much weight in external achievements, because you wouldn't give that to yourself, and your self-worth was probably tied to achieving external stuff, right?
But then even then, I still don't feel like I've achieved much. There's always, I do question if I ever have like 10 million, do I feel like I've succeeded? But it's not about the 10 million, it's about what the life I can have if I had 10 million, where I feel like I could have achieved. So yeah, I mean, if we look at our age expectancy from years ago, we'd be dead by now. So based on that, we've achieved a lot. I'm still alive. And to be fair, my achievements are that I have survived a lot of near-death experiences. I mean, I'm lucky to be alive from the amount of times I've had anaphylactic shock from peanut allergy and head injuries from rugby and dengue.
This is something, though. I think who gets to decide what success is? I think that's subjective. I think you can decide what success means to you, and I think you can change your relationship with it. Like, so what I see with a lot of my clients is success is tied to what they were told was successful, getting a job, climbing the corporate ladder, or just winning a race or whatever. That was their definition of success. And I'm saying, well, okay, you're going through a tough time, you're having an ego death. Those were the old values of success that was tied to your ego, and now your ego has died because it's clearly not aligning with who you truly are. So again, going back to this looking forward aspect, I think okay, right, what does success mean to you? And can you create that feeling now? Because for you, it could just be having meaningful connections, for example. Who says it has to be external stuff? That's just, in my opinion, societal conditioning, really.
I think for me, it'll be having a healthy child, but being in a position to be able to have a healthy child financially. She's got to live in the world. There are things that need to be done here. So, yeah, that would be successful for me. Having the means to be able to have a child and support them and provide and be there. Be a present dad that has enough money to do what I want to do what my partner wants to do, and also successfully bring a kid into this world and not damage them by the age of 7.
I love that, and
That would be success for me.
I do. I really love that, and that's a great goal, because it's, again, we've got the responsibility, we've got the chance now to break that generational stuff we were talking about, and I think that's, in and of itself, like you said, that can be a very big success. And I wonder, in your instance as well, because you mentioned, I think, more than one instance of heartbreak, right? I wonder how you have recovered from those, and how is your perspective now going forward?
I wrote myself a heartbreak manual if it ever happens again. I've got like a protocol to go through. Maybe I should coach that. Did think about it, becoming a breakup coach, but then that relies on people to have breakups, and I'd rather people didn't, because it's not the nicest of feelings. So detachment from those relationships is probably the most painful thing. All of that effort, time, attachment, safety, love, flow of affection, just cut off. It's like losing your access to what you've made your life about, right? Someone says, oh, you can no longer do jiu-jitsu. How would you feel? It'd break your heart.
With the knowledge I've got now, I think at first it would be quite a hit, but then I would look forward and see, right, okay, I can't do jiu-jitsu, what else am I going to do? But yeah, you would experience that at first. You'd feel that emotion.
I love heartbreaks, man. I hate the feeling of them, but I love them. They've made me into a multi-faceted artist. Like, wouldn't have become an actor, wouldn't have sang, wouldn't have been doing art when I was younger, wouldn't have like learned all this music, sung all these songs, learned all these songs, written all this poetry, performed all this poetry, taken all these photographs, traveled. Like, these things, this pain spurred me to go in different directions that would help soothe my soul through music, through playing other characters and channeling that into the character, that I get to live it over and over again as a character on the stage, and then it's dealt with when I come off the stage.
Yeah, that's a lovely mindset, I think, to finish on, right? It's all these experiences make us who we are today, and that's really special. And I think we come into this world and we have an opportunity to experience the depths of emotions.
Yeah.
And rather than running away from them, we should really experience them, whether it's heartbreak, crying,
and the gym. That helps.
And the gym, right, in the handbook. But absolutely, I think, come down here, and we tend to avoid these emotions, but we've got this opportunity to really feel them. After this life, we're not going to be able to feel the intensity of the emotions. Let's make the most of it. Let's really embrace it, rather than trying to fucking numb ourselves. And yeah, I absolutely love that. We've covered a lot of ground, which is awesome. We've got a closing tradition on the podcast. We've got 3 quick questions.
Fire away.
First one is a song suggestion.
Release by Pearl Jam.
Got it. Okay, I haven't heard of it. I'll be checking it out. Second one is a book suggestion.
The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
And the third one is a question from one of the Growth Voyage listeners. So I ask one of the followers on Instagram to ask the guest a question.
Okay.
So let's have a look and see who's answered one. This one comes in from Darren Banks, and he says, what was the single biggest mindset shift that changed the trajectory of your life, and how can others apply it to their own journey?
I had dengue fever last August and I was in hospital for 6 days. I tried to fight the virus with my head and be like, right, I'm going to think my way out of this. Can't do anything about that. That's ridiculous. Tried to fight it with my body. My body had no energy. I had to just completely let go of trying to fight something and just surrender. Because if I tried to fight more, I was going to exhaust myself. Not only did I have dengue, I found out that my ex-partner had moved on to someone else, and it just, all this pain, it was physical pain, mental pain, and I tried to fight. And instead of fighting, I just went, nah, it's fine. Let go. There's no point holding on to this shit. I can't do anything. Like I couldn't move, and that was it. Surrender.
I love that, and that's what Magnus says as well. That was the moment that changed his life. Was he was trying to fight anxiety, these anxiety attacks, and the moment he just went, "Have me, surrender," it disappeared. And I love that. I think that's super important. Surrendering, and yeah, that's brilliant. Bobby, we've covered so much ground. We've covered
my life story.
We've covered your life story. We've covered, everything I think that we possibly could have imagined. So thank you so much. Thank you for being so open about your story. It's very appreciated. Where can people find you if they're interested in voice coaching?
On Instagram, Bobby Makepeace, or VoiceWork Pro. I've got 2 accounts, so you can find it there.
Okay, wicked. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thanks, man.
You.
Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Cheers.